Hey, welcome back to another live stream. This is becoming, I guess, a really cool, not habit, but a really cool, you know, consistent thing that we're doing. Once again, the podcast relaunches in September, but it's a lot of stuff going on now, and we're going to talk about pertinent issues. Today, we're going to be joined by Black mothers to talk about raising a Black son in this era, in this time of frustration and all kinds of other things going on. And so we're going to be joined by a couple of Black mothers today to talk about this. But before we get started on Black motherhood, I'm sitting here with the big sis. She done known me since I was knee high to a grasshopper. Tell the people who you are.
So my name is Simone Jones, originally from Birmingham, Alabama. Like Chad said, I am big sister. I don't know how I became big sister, but I
You was the reason. You was the first person that got me sent to the office. That's why.
Really?
Yeah, when we was at Central Park. I remember.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. It's okay. I was fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, it's okay. I've been holding on to it for like 30-some years. It's okay.
Clearly, because
And tell me, and you went to the legendary Tuskegee University. Am I correct?
I sure did. I finished in 2005. My background is in chemistry, but I've never actually used my chemistry degree. When I finished, I went back to Birmingham, like I said, which is where I'm originally from, and I am the founder of Malcolm's Reading Room, which is it was a Black bookstore that I ran in Birmingham with my former husband from 2007 to 2010.
Over on the west side.
Downtown.
Yeah, it was west side adjacent, rather. So I should say that.
Downtown in the Masonic Temple.
Yeah. Oh, it was in the Masonic Temple. Yeah. I remember being on 8th Avenue, so it was the Masonic Temple first.
It's always been at Masonic Temple. It might have been another. There had been one other Black bookstore in the city before that, and some, not necessarily bookstores, but places where you could get paraphernalia and that kind of thing on 8th Avenue. So it always been on the corner of 17th Street and 4th Avenue North. And
the legendary 4th Avenue Business District.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we were right there with Kelly Ingram Park, Civil Rights Institute, Green Acres Chicken. So
Absolutely. Well, we're gonna go and jump into it. Before we get to the Black Mothers discussion, I went to if you follow me on my personal page, we'll have some pictures coming up soon on the podcast page. But on my personal page, if you followed me there, you saw me go live at the protest here in Charlotte. And when I have I want to say something quickly to those of you who are watching this that are not Black, but maybe a person of color or maybe a white person. In terms of being an ally, I'm watching you a little bit more than I am other Black people, because I saw something today where I was like, yo, some of y'all come out there and we appreciate your presence. I saw some great white accomplices out there. There's a difference between being an ally and accomplice, okay? I saw some great people out there handling their business. But I saw this one incident where it's this black man who's a legend, essentially, in Charlotte. He's authentic Charlotte. Like, if you've ever been or worked uptown and you've seen the guy, we call him Jesus Saves, because that's the only thing you've ever heard him say. He's riding through the city saying, Jesus saves, Jesus. That's what he does. That's his thing. I watched him be disrespected by an ally who was live streaming and was walking around with their gimbal, and that's not cool. That dude has a right to be at that protest, and that dude has a right to continue doing what he's doing because he's doing it for years. And if I see something like that again at a protest, let's just say the protest would no longer be peaceful for a minute. Okay. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna allow you to come to our protest and then disrespect people who have a right to be there and who have earned their spot in Uptown Charlotte. Period. That's not happening around me. Yeah. You're getting checked. I'm just saying that. I'm gonna leave it at that. You had a point earlier about how certain allies were raised to not understand that sometimes their opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, and we are talking about allies and as opposed to accomplices. And I don't know if you plan on giving the difference, but
So the ally is the person who shows up to the protest march with you, go home and says, "Hey, I did something great." The accomplice is the one who stands in the line of fire with you. An ally is somebody who pats you on the back and says, "Hey, I stand with you with abstract support." A accomplice is somebody right there on the ground with you, offering concrete solutions and support. So there, if whatever your lane is your lane. I can appreciate the allies and I can appreciate the accomplices, but nonetheless, I just need you to respect that space. That's my big thing. I had a real problem with that. But no, continue with your point. I'm sorry. I just wanted to put that
out. In the point is also a distinction. People not of color, or I sometimes refer to as white adjacent, have not been placed in a position where they have to actively listen and stay quiet after they've been given instruction. They are unaccustomed to the space not being theirs, or they having their ability of having some influence over that space. So what it sounds to me, when you talk about like you're at a protest and there's someone who is not a Black person, and this is about violence, right, against Black people. Black people are the center of it. They are unaccustomed to it not being about them in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's sit down, be quiet, follow instructions, don't offer your opinion unless your opinion is asked for. And if
unless my safety is being threatened and your opinion is going to keep me safe.
Right. And if you offer and if your opinion is invited, be prepared for it to not automatically be accepted.
Right. I just had a real problem with that. I do plan on engaging in more activities regarding the protests and things of that nature. I'm just not going to allow people to disrespect folks randomly, whether you're an ally or whether you're an accomplice. Period. That's just me. I'm occasionally with the shits. Yeah. So I got a lot to lose.
The other thing is and it sounds really, really basic. It might sound insulting to some people, but some groups of people are not expected to exercise what? Impulse control.
Restraint.
Restraint.
Yeah. Let's go on and dive into the subject of the day. We're talking about being a Black mother in 2020, something I have no experience with. I've never been a mother. I don't think I can be a mother. Don't plan on being a mother. So I want to center in this space Black women who are mothers of Black sons to talk about raising their children in this era, which is just like every other era where their bodies have been seen as a threat. Black children have often been seen as older, more nefarious by their education, by their educators rather, and have often been seen, as guilty until proven innocent. In Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu's book, Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, he talks about the third grade breakdown syndrome. And literally, I read that book and I remember watching how a lot of my friends and peers around third and fourth grade, children stop, raising their hands. Black male children stop raising their hands, stop trying to be first in the class, stop trying to be first in line, and they resign themselves to being a problem. And so we want to talk about, how to combat all that stuff, and we're keeping this conversation positive. So I'm just going to let you cook. I'm going to give you the floor. I want you to tell me how it feels right now in 2020 to be a Black mother with everything that's going on right now.
The first thing that comes to mind as far as how I feel about being a Black mother is being in a constant state of heightened awareness, being hypersensitive and hyper aware to what's going on in their environment, how the environment is supporting them and not supporting them, how they're responding to it, how they're processing it. I've moved out of different stages. Of course, it's joy from having a child, joy from having little Black boys. I have 3. I have a 13, 11, and a 9-year-old. And I grew up in a family where all of the Black men are stand-up men. And it was going to be a joy to give birth to these boys to put out into the world so that other Black women, other Black people can experience these stand-up, Black men. But over time, it becomes a question. Sometimes you want to know, did you make the right decision by even having children, period. But then when you find out you have a boy in this world where they are seen as adults when they're 8 years old, they're seen as threats, they're seen as less than, they're seen as an oddity. And in some cases, they're seen as something to make exotic. It becomes a constant thing that you worry about and you think about all the time. So, one of the things that I am constantly thinking about is my children's ability to think critically about situations that they're in. At the same time, wanting to preserve their childhood, preserve the youth, allow them to be the kind, gentle boys that they are, allow them to be boys. But then, I look at my children. My oldest child is tall. He's already 5'8". He's probably going to be over 6 foot. He gets it honestly, and he is the calmest, most gentle guy you'll meet. But when he gets taller and bigger, who is he intimidating, right? Like, who is he going to intimidate just by being present? So it's making sure that he's aware of what's happening to him, making sure that his brothers are aware of what's happening to them not being unafraid to speak up and protect themselves when the time comes without making them jaded. So it's how do you do that? How do you keep them from becoming jaded when there's so much stuff happening to them and people that look like them, to make them weary of the world, make them not really want to engage. And then I have an added situation in that their father and I are no longer together, but their father married a white woman. And so there's a constant conversation about.
Let's put a pin in that.
Okay.
Let's put a pin in that and come back to it. Yeah. Let's come back to it. I want to introduce our new guest on the phone, another wonderful Black mother originally from Birmingham, Alabama. Tell the people who you are.
Hi.
Hey, girl. Hey.
I am Salika, formerly known as Angela.
And how many boys do you have?
I have 3.
Oh, so both of y'all got 3 boys. Great. How old are yours?
Mine are 20, 18, and 18.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I just finished asking Simone. How do you feel right now as a Black mother in this era and raising young Black men?
Because mine are officially adults, it's really weird, because the work starts when they turn like 18. That's when the real heavy work starts, because you're trying to usher them into young adulthood. They think they know everything, and they got that, that youngster bravado, like they're invincible. And, my twins got robbed of everything that the class of 2020 got robbed of. My 20-year-old was already in college, and he was still at home. But they were all just kind of like, wow. So we're just kind of like, I'm like dazed in the headlights, because I'm in Hawaii. My oldest is in Hawaii. The twins were like, ain't nothing going on in Hawaii. We're going back to the mainland, where the COVID cases are just crazy. So I had a sense of comfort being removed. And that's part of the biggest reason that I moved out here, because I'm a single mother with 5 children. And 2016 was a year that was just so heartbreaking, that I looked at the sheer size of my family and I'm like, somebody is going to be a casualty because the numbers are not on my side. Mm-hmm. And so I agreed to, I chose to move everybody out here to Hawaii, and Hawaii has been good to us. And we've like avoided a lot of things, but the twins' decision to go back to the mainland has like my heart in my throat all the time.
Is it because of the issues right now with all of the police brutality and profiling and stuff like that, or is it more just the whole gamut of being a Black man in America and the things that you have to deal with?
Well, it's the whole gamut, because they haven't had any type of interactions with law enforcement as of yet that haven't been positive. the interactions they had have been out here, and it's just a whole different thing. The reasons that I moved are still as valid today as they were in 2016 after Mike Brown, after everything that happened in 2016. Like, the reason that I chose to move, all that stuff is still valid. You know, Birmingham, that ain't it. That ain't it. You know, and
I got you.
And one of the twins is going to school in Savannah, Georgia, and I'm just like, you know, that's not that far from, I think, where the Ahmad case happened.
It's not. It's not. Brunswick and Savannah are close.
Yeah, he was having second thoughts about going, and that was like, he got into SCAD. That was his number one choice, full scholarship for art, and he was excited to go. And I'm like, please, you know, I'm like, go, but don't go.
Gotcha. You don't want to crush their dreams, but you want them to be safe at the same time. It's that dichotomy. We now have we have our third mother in here. Y'all saw her on the last one. She's actually on the ground in Minneapolis. It's funny. I was telling Simone before we started. We got 3 Black women all on the chat, and all of y'all went to Ramsey. So I just find that amazing. So, Asia, unmute yourself and tell everybody who you are right now.
What's up, everybody? Hey, everyone. Ramsey up in the house. Amen, amen. So, yeah, I'm Dr. Asia King. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor in counseling psychology up here in Minnesota. I've been up here 8 years. And, you know, things are beyond chaotic right now, you know. And somebody was telling me, like, you know, why is this different? The thing about this case is that I actually have a place where I could put this energy. You know what I'm saying? Where he got murdered, where George Floyd got murdered, is right around the corner from one of my contract jobs. So I do contract throughout the city, and when I went to the site, it's like within walking distances of the place where I go talk about healing, you know, where I'm in the community and I'm, you know, providing support for everybody. And Minneapolis has a very small African American community. It's a very small African American community. A lot of the community has minorities, but it's like Somali, you know, people who come from different parts of Africa. You got Hmong, you got Hispanic, like there's everybody here. But the African American community is very small. And so, you know, I had a place where I could go put that energy and where I could actually not just protest, but where I could help and where I could pick up other people and reach out. And a lot of people across the country, they don't have that place to do that. So it's there, you know, people are kind of feeling a little hopeless. But I think with everybody rising up across the country, hopefully this will be different, because right now the conversation that I've been having with my boys has been, it's been very interesting, because I've never had to navigate Blackness before. Because as we know, Birmingham, Alabama encompasses Blackness. By first grade, by elementary school, you've had a Black teacher. By middle school, you've had a Black teacher. By high school, we had nothing but Black teachers at Ramsey for the most part. It was nothing. I mean, it was nothing to see you. I had a Black dentist.
I had a Spanish teacher that had to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, wait. I mean, but the thing is that we had Blackness around us. So I never had to navigate like who I was as a Black person, because I always saw Black professionalism and Black business owners. My mechanic was Black. Leonard's over there by Elmwood Cemetery. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so now being up in Minnesota, you have to find Blackness. Right. You have to find it. The teachers, none of them are Black. And if they are, they're the janitors. And they're not even the lunch ladies. Like they're not even in the lower paying the positions in the schools here. Right. So now I find myself putting my kids through these white operated schools where they don't get to see themselves. And now I have to fight teachers. I've had more time where I've had to go up to the school so that they wouldn't have this narrative that my sons were these angry Black boys. No, they're frustrated because maybe they don't get the lesson. Maybe they're frustrated because you being an ass. Maybe they're frustrated because of their peers. But there's no space to be angry up here.
If you're a black person. So here's okay. So my next question, because I want to make this. We got the baseline understanding of how you all feel about mothering black sons in 2020.
Yeah.
So my next question is, and we're gonna start. I'm gonna start with you, Salika. What sort of things do you impart upon your sons? Because you can't protect them forever, and you can't protect them in the face of some of this, BS they have to deal with. What sort of values, what sorts of lessons do you teach them? What do you teach your sons to help them navigate society as a black mother? I mean, for them as a black man, with you being a black mother. Let me make sure that's clear. Salika?
Chuck's frozen.
Let's see. Well, let's go to you, Simone. You got the question. What kind of things and values, thoughts, and gifts have you imparted upon your sons to help them navigate this space as a black male with you being a mother?
Think critically. Be unafraid to protect your space. And I say this because, we've mentioned before, we're all originally from Birmingham, but I'm actually in the DC area. And so I have a very similar sentiment to Asia. As far as my children are concerned, they're in schools where there are very few black kids. And if there are black children, they are first generation African, second generation African. So they, have a different approach to the world, period. And there was an incident once where my son had his 13th birthday party. Most of his, if not all of his little buddies were white. And one of his friends decided that he was going to play rough and pushed him up against the wall. And his father and I and my partner all looked like, what just happened? And it dawned on me that he was just being his normal kind of unfazed, not really bothered. But it warranted a conversation about personal space. Being willing to protect your personal space and to not be a pet for your little buddies who might happen to be not black, because you have to tell people how to treat you, right? You have to teach people how to treat you. So all three of the boys are getting these lessons about thinking critically, being aware, being able to speak up and recognize when something is not right, when something is crossing the line. And like I said, in that example, is just their space being violated and recognizing it as a violation. And being okay with the fact that it's a violation and it needs to be brought to that other person's attention. Just being unapologetic. But my biggest thing is pay attention. Think critically. We have talked about this, you love your boys and raise your girls. I'm raising boys. I'm raising my boys. I'm raising them. You think critically, you pay attention. You have personal accountability for your space and your being. And again, it's okay for you to speak up and say, no, I don't want you in my personal space. And the other thing is not internalizing other people's perspective of them to the point of denying who they actually are. Because this world, this society will tell you, male or female, person of color especially, deny who you are in order to be safe. So again, my biggest thing is thinking critically and being able to face the truth. Don't desensitize yourself. Face the truth. Be able to honor what the truth is and move accordingly. So that's it. Because I can keep going, y'all.
So Asia, let's kick it to you, Asia. You tell. So what kind of lessons and thoughts and jewels are you dropping on your sons to help them navigate this world as black men?
So I tell my boys quite a bit, lead with your heart. It's your job to make sure that you don't go out and make somebody else's life shitty You know, if you don't feel good about yourself, check yourself, but go in and lead with your heart and make the world a better, you know, be good in the world. You know what I'm saying? So a
Mhm.
lot of my talk to them is about volunteering. You know, they're always with me when I'm volunteering. And right now, more importantly, making sure that they're not just educated about themselves, but help them to not feel like they're in a place of helplessness. You're not helpless. There's plenty of things that we can do as a people, as black men, as a black person, to help not feel like we don't have a place. So right now, you know, it's all about arming them with tools that they need, not just for life, but for survival. So that's why one of my sons is a black belt, and the other one is on his way to be a first degree black belt. So okay, we're gonna learn how to do hand to hand combat. Next point, we're gonna learn how to deal with firearms and fire safety. I heard at one of the speeches that the Black Panthers are starting a chapter up here. We're gonna join that, and we're
Mhm.
gonna make sure that it's not just partial. But I'm trying to teach the boys, whatever you do, go full hearted into it. Go full hearted. Get yourself a place in this world. Get yourself a profession in this world, so that whatever platform you get on, you don't use it just for the sake of being rich, but you use it for the sake of helping your people reach back and reach up. And so what I'm telling them is that everywhere you go, you need to open your mouth and say what's right. You need to not be afraid to do what's right. I said, because that's how people get lost in letting shit happen, because they're so afraid to speak. And I know my little one, my 9-year-old, he is definitely his mama's child. You know, I'm a loudmouth. I've always been a loudmouth since day one. That's why I'm a therapist now. And my son, he's gotten in trouble for that, because he'll tell folks, don't touch me. You're in my, I teach them all of that. Nobody has a right to touch you. Nobody has a right to be in your space. If you don't like that shit, say it. And if they got a problem with it, it's on them. And so my 9-year-old has told teachers, don't touch me. Please don't come in my space. And then they called me, Dr. King. I was like, well, what did you do? Well, did you move out of space? Well, then move. Like, because what I'm trying to show them is that people will try to make you feel like you're wrong for setting the boundaries.
Mhm.
And that's not right. No, if you don't like it, say it and then stick next to it. They will figure out how to deal with themselves. And so trying to empower them as black men, that's just my goal. And figure out how to exert positive energy. And I tried to have that talk on not looking aggressive and not looking like you, but that doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
So
So, you know, yeah.
I gotta applaud the fact that you have your son in martial arts. I tell people all the time that an ass whooping will teach you things, like a legitimate ass whooping, hand to hand ass whooping will teach you things that I could never teach you, or you can't learn in school, or you can't learn anywhere else. Sometimes and I'm a guy that loves boxing and I love MMA. I've learned a whole lot from getting punched in the mouth. So by life and by other people. So I definitely respect that. And I think every black male at this point needs to know. I think every black family it felt good to go to the gun store yesterday and see a lot of black people in there at the range, because we've often been taught that guns are bad and we shouldn't have guns while everybody else is collecting guns and going to gun shows. I go to gun shows all the time. I think that, teaching us to defend ourselves can only be a good thing. Especially in 2020. Salika, do I got you back or did you freeze? Yeah, I think she's frozen again. We'll come back to her when she's not frozen. So we talked about these positive things we want to impart upon our sons in 2020. And I got a whole list of them here that I'm gonna, say at the end of this broadcast. But you touched on something a little bit earlier, Simone, that I thought was, very interesting. I wanted to put a pin in that right quick. So you mentioned that your boy's father chose to date a woman who is not black and marry a woman who is not black, that doesn't look like their mother. What do you all tell your sons in 2020 about dating, love, relationships, and well, hold on a second. Let's see. Salika, we got you back.
Oh.
I don't know. Hello? Yeah, I think you're frozen again. So want to talk to you guys about that whole dating aspect of it. What do you tell your sons about, dating, their bodies, love, things of that nature? We're gonna get to the she can't use your comb, don't bring a home part of it, because I've heard that plenty of times. But I want to talk. What do you guys tell your sons? Let's start with you, Asia. What do you tell your sons about that? Asia, did you freeze too?
Them don't bring home. I initially told them don't bring home no white woman. I told period. Just fuck it.
Wait.
Hold up.
Wait, because you froze for a second. We could hear the first part of that. That's what I'm telling you to wait. Like, okay. Get it. Because you just came in, don't bring the white woman home. And I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on. It's got to be something leading up to that shit. Like, let's see.
I told them, I said, don't bring no white woman home, because up here, up north, there is, and it's true, I've seen it with my own eyes, and I've heard it from white women and from black men. There is this fetish for black men with the white woman. Okay. Mm-hmm. They come up here and they get with white women. And I've heard black guys say, you get from white women up here because they will serve you any way they want you to be served, without any repercussions, without anything with it. And so the white woman will get with them, and it's like a fetish to them. And I've heard a white woman say they have told their black men, do not look at black women, because when you do, it disrespects me. Because they're insecure about dating our men. Okay. And so I tell my sons, love who you love, love who you love. But if you get with a white woman, you need to make sure you get with one that understands it ain't no fetish with you. You are not no taboo thing to tote around like you done got something. There is something that comes with you. And if she doesn't understand that, she need to get lost. I said, but try to find somebody that can understand and move with you.
I wasn't quite ready to dive into the fetishization and that aspect of it. But, I mean, fuck it, we here now.
We here now. It's the truth. I'm sorry. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen black men. I'm just passing by. You know how we do down south? We speak to strangers.
How you doing?
Hey, brother, how you doing? You know what I'm saying? I've seen black men purposefully not make eye contact with me when they're with their white woman. I've seen it.
Oh, wow.
I've seen it. And I thought at first it was me just tripping. But then once I've been up here 8 years and have a multitude of black men purposefully not even try to look and acknowledge me, I was like, this is a thing. This is really a thing. And then when I got to talking to some of the white women, that they felt insecure if their black man spoke to a black woman, because they're always thinking, well, you could always be with a black woman. Why did you pick me? So I tell you what, just don't speak to them at all. And they follow that shit.
Yep.
That's tough. So, Simone, I want to get your perspective, because, so Asia, you're in the Minnesota area. Simone, you're in the DMV area, which is a little more culturally diverse. DC used to be called Chocolate City. Now it's like Chocolate Milk City. So tell me about your thoughts on this. I really didn't plan on diving into this yet, but let's go because Asia came through with the chop and just let it loose. Listen.
The irony of all this is that their father is married to a white woman from Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's from Minnesota. And this very black on a mama shirt is not just something.
Yeah, that's not the same thing. I've got a friend. Who she was married to a guy whose children were with their mother, who was a white woman. And some of the things that we talk about, you can tell it's a very different experience. We have different experiences just living, but we can also tell that it's a different way of parenting. Sometimes culturally with them versus us. So I can imagine that can be a difficult, thing to navigate.
Yeah, I mean, so like the conversations with them are not necessarily about relationships.
They're a little younger, right?
Yeah, but when it comes to the whole relationship thing, I want them to understand emotional intelligence. And that's across the board. You need to be emotionally intelligent. You need to understand what's healthy, what's not healthy, how people should treat you, how people should not treat you. But the reason that I brought up that their father has married a white woman is not so much the issue with the white woman herself, because that's a separate conversation from, you know, with the boys especially. It's what do they see, and are they being desensitized to what the world is actually like. So their stepmother happens to be the type of white person that did Peace Corps, Teach for America, lived in Africa, did all these things, does everything that she can to prove to be an ally or an accomplice, and like racism isn't okay. So, you know, that is what she tries to speak about and be about when dealing with the boys, but they also have to deal with their black ass mama.
So here's a question, this is a very important question. Does she serve as an advocate for your sons in those times where she needs to?
She
Because
has.
I think there are too many times that young black males are not advocated for, a lot of times not even by their own parents.
Well, you know
And
what?
so,
She had, but let me put some context on it. She has, after she stepped on toes, and she stepped on toes because it's a couple of things. She's a teacher. It's all these layers to it, and this insecurity around the fact that her current husband has this super black ex-wife and these chocolate boys, and you know, like, I'm wearing this T-shirt, but this is me all the time. We're from Birmingham, right? Like my boyfriend's like, Birmingham is an activist city, even if you don't realize it. Black people who come out of Birmingham are black all the time.
AF.
It's all the time.
All the time.
So, you know, I always felt a sense of intimidation on her part when it came to interacting with me and respecting the roles, and she was caught off guard early on, and I was like, I'm their mama. It don't matter what you say or do. And they move that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, they move that way. It just so happens that I'm the type of person that respects boundaries, right? I'm not going to encourage them to disrespect the home that they have with their father and their stepmother. But some of that came about because it was a necessary conversation with her about their mother's not out of the picture.
So here's another question.
They don't need a certain type of support from you. And this ain't Teach for America, right? This ain't Peace Corps. This ain't a missionary thing. So it's a constant sense of setting boundaries, but specific to the boys, there is this person that you interact with and can become family with and have this attachment to, but the relationship between your father and her is not the only type of relationship out there. It is not the standard bearer for all relationships. And don't go into this world thinking that if you date someone that is not black, it's going to be like that.
Because it may not be.
Not be. There are plenty of white people who have relationships with black folks and children that are racist. Point blank.
I just ran into that not too long ago. I'm not gonna get into that story though. So I have a question. And this goes for both of you guys. I mean, you're both very unapologetically black, which I can only imagine means your sons will also be unapologetically black. Have you ever felt like you had to talk to your sons about, and I'm not going to say toning down their blackness, but have you ever had to talk to your sons a little bit about, I think I know your answer already, Simone, because I think we've had this conversation before. Have you ever had to talk to your sons about moving a certain way to not be seen as the angry black man? Because that is a real stereotype. And I'll admit, like, for most of my life, I was angry. I mean, rightfully so, but I was legitimately angry. But there were some of my friends who were never angry or who were, you know, living great lives and really had their emotions in check, but they were considered angry black men every time they showed even the slightest bit of annoyance, frustration, irritation, or assertiveness at any time. Have you guys ever had to talk to your sons about that? Let's start with you, Simone.
Actually, no.
Oh, wow.
No. And the reason is no is because, you know, I take exception to the whole angry black woman thing, right? And angry black man thing. I take exception to that. We have a right to be angry. So I don't necessarily have conversations with them about don't present as too angry. It's how you channel your anger. And how do you respond to those things that trigger your anger? So, you know, I am a believer in your destiny is your destiny, right? And and this is me personally, is like your purpose in this world is to fulfill your destiny. And what I'm here to do with these boys is steward them along. And it would be disingenuous for me to go into this whole thing about don't present so angry, don't present this way, don't present that way. Um, the conversations are slightly different about how to avoid certain situations. But, and then, again, it's just me personally, it's like if your anger scares another person, it's gonna scare that person no matter what. You can be absolutely not angry. Like you just said, Chad, you have friends who show any level of dissatisfaction and is labeled as anger.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So, you know, maybe I need to get better at having that conversation about the straight up anger. But the way that I've been taught, the way that I've been raised, the way I move through the world, the way that the men in my family have moved through the world, even their own father has moved through the world. The worry around anger and presentation and all of that is not so much the center of the discussion because there's a use for it. It's like how do you channel that? How do you make it work for you? Because my thing with them has always been this concern of them moving too much based on how other people see them. You know what I mean? Like trying to balance and just be who you are, move how you're gonna do your thing, you're protected, you know, having faith, these types of things. But you know, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier and teaching them about their personal space. So like Asia was saying about her son, it's like, don't touch me. Sometimes anger fuels that, right? Or like, and then sometimes the question is it really anger?
Or is it just a boundary that people have never been, I guess, required to respect in other people, and now they're just, you know, projecting onto you?
Yeah,
I can appreciate that thought process.
Huh?
I can appreciate that thought process. I think about the Frederick Douglass quote. I would prefer to be true to myself, even at the hazard of incurring the ridicule of others, rather than to be false and incur my own abhorrence.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where you find yourself shrinking and placing yourself in a box so as not to make people uncomfortable around you, because nobody wants to be seen as the angry person. So yeah, I can definitely appreciate that. What about you, Asia?
Well, and then the community thing, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but it goes back into how we function in our community as Black people. And I don't want them bottling anger up that they end up taking out on someone in their own community, or that it trickles down to some girl they're dating, right? Or it trickles down to to their younger brother, or at their father, or you know what I'm saying? It's redirecting it. Most importantly, in emotional intelligence about it. So
putting it in the proper perspective and making sure it's a healthy and righteous anger as opposed to anything else.
Reason, yeah, like it's misguided.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if it's anger. Like I said, maybe that's what it is. I would challenge the word anger as a catch-all. It's like, what is that? Is it truly anger, or is
let's classify it? Let's identify it, classify it, and find healthy ways to redirect that into something positive. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So, Asia, let's talk about let's talk about your sons. Have you ever found yourself having to have that conversation about them tampering down, you know, any sort of emotion or anything like that, so as not to be seen as the angry Black man?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I have found myself of like trying to, you know, make them look approachable, like lift your eyes. So my 9-year-old does this thing where he frowns, and when he frowns, it's a deep frown. You know what I'm saying? And so I've always told him, like, lift your eyes, try to lift your face, take your hood off. When you're in somewhere, you know, don't look like you this, don't look like you that. And, you know, that's part of the conditioning that I've been through of how to make Black people approachable. And unfortunately, you know, I've come under that under that notion. I came under that notion. But now just realizing that it doesn't matter if you are asleep. You could be in your bed not making any movement. You still are a target. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm teaching my kids now, our biggest thing is having the vocabulary. You can feel what you need to feel. Like Simone was saying, anger is the catch all phrase. But when we think about different levels and different variations of anger, there's frustration, there's fatigue, there's all these things that create anger. Like anger is the last part of it, but there's so many things that are underneath that I'm trying to teach my children about, having the vocabulary to say what's going on with you. What are you experiencing? Where are you experiencing that? And then being able how to communicate that to other people. Because, folks in general will just oversimplify and overgeneralize of he's just this angry person. But my goal is to make sure that they have the full vocabulary to say, you know what? Anger is the last emotion, but let me tell you why. It's when you did this systematic, blah, 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 whatever they need to say. Because when I'm working with clients, they get so stuck and stumbled because nobody ever taught them how to articulate what's going on with them. Some of the greatest people that we have was because of their ability to articulate and be able to say what they are really experiencing. And so that's why I'm trying to get my boys ready to, say what you're experiencing, take people through that journey with you so that they don't have any room to assume of what they think you're thinking.
Exactly.
So, it's a lot of work, and it takes work on my part to recognize where have I been conditioned to think that making them not frown is going to make them safer. And it's not true. So the thing I know to do to help prepare them is to educate them and help them to get educated for themselves and be fully aware of their human experience of this world and how to say that to other people so that they can get them in check and clear their imagination about them.
Right. So, I get it. Like, it's one of those things where, I say all the time, respectability won't save you. MLK wore a suit and marched in, hush puppies, and they still shot him in the neck. We just sat there and watched Barack Obama get called every sort of racial slur. And I know a lot of racial slurs, but I learned a whole bunch of them between 2008 and 2016. I was like, I've never heard anybody call the moon cricket before. Oh, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things, right? So respectability, I say all the time, like, he's the most respectable Negro on the planet. And he was the most well-educated president and had the most well-educated first lady that we'd ever had. And he still got called X, Y, and Z. And so, whether you like his political stances or not, I didn't always agree with him. You had to understand that this guy is worthy of respect in the position that he's in for earning it. And he still got treated like that. So, I mean, if Henry Louis Gates can have to deal with profiling, my black ass can deal with everything. Okay, I'm just gonna be real with you. So I can see where you guys are, basically telling your children, hey, be authentically black, and be yourself, because, well, I guess for lack of a better phrase, those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter. Moving right along from there, I wanna. So we're up on 48 minutes, and I know that this next segment, got a fly around here, can take about 10 minutes or so. So okay. I'm gonna read back the notes that I took as far as what are the positive things you want to impart upon your sons to help them navigate American society in 2020. Think critically, be unafraid to protect your space, pay attention, face the truth, lead with your heart, reach back and reach up, and don't be afraid to speak up and speak for what's right. Okay, so you guys are both very dynamic and excellent, amazing black women and black mothers. And so I want you to give the black mothers that are listening right now, that are watching this right now, some positive affirmations. Like, encourage your fellow black mothers out here. I'm gonna give you the floor. I want each of y'all to take some time and just encourage them, man, and show some love, because I'm all about love and positivity these days, So I'm gonna start with you, Asia.
So encouragement for mothers. Are we saying for black mothers or just mothers in general?
For black mothers.
Oh
Mothers of black sons. Mothers of black sons.
man, for a black mother, do not parent any child in isolation. It literally takes a village to raise a child, and a good village. So not just anybody. You get folks that, want to see you go up. You get folks around you that want to see you be great. You get folks around you that if you bring them an idea, they're not telling you how it's a bad idea, but they'll help you work out the kinks in it. You get you a village. You
Mhm.
get you a village, because raising children, they write books about how to raise kids, but that's just an idea. Children come with their own blueprints. They come with their own manual. So there's no real way on how to parent a child. So you need folks, you need elders. And don't be afraid to say the mistakes you do as a parent, because I have not been perfect. That's why I could never run for president. I gotta you got shit you could look up on me, and I'm still a professional, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, regardless of whatever I've been through, I've made sure that I've reached up to people that I trusted, that could teach me what to do. So make sure that your village is strong. Make sure you aren't afraid of the things that you go through, because that's what makes you as a parent, and tell folks what's going on. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, because on the airplane, they'll tell you, if we're going down, you put air mask on yourself first before you even save the person next to you. Why? Because if you pass out, you're no good to anybody. If you're walking around here about to pass out, you got to help yourself. Build boundaries with your kids. Teach them what they need to do, and make sure you do it unapologetically. A lot of times as black parents, we don't want to, or just parents in general, we don't want to tell our kids no. But it's okay to tell your child no. It's okay to set the standard on what you want them to be, because they are watching you. We are their first teachers. So, and for black children that are listening with their parents, trust your parents, and trust that they're never going to guide you wrong. And I go back to the parent, and this is my last point. I go back to the parent to say, it's okay to have conversations with your children. This is one of the things that I help some of my clients, and I go through as well. I have conversations of give and take with my children. It's not always do as I say and not as I do. That's bull crap. My kids watch me, and they call me on my stuff sometimes. And then, yeah, is it hard to hear? Absolutely. But I want my children to know that there's a way you can respect authority, but that doesn't mean you have to follow when authority is doing wrong. If I'm wrong, my kids call me on it, and I have to accept that. Because what I'm teaching them now, I'm teaching them to go into the world. So if they can't call me on some of the things that I might have done, then they're going to go into that organization, see corruption, and not call them on it, because I taught them from the start, don't correct authority. And that's wrong. There's a way you could do it, and there's a way you could do it in a healthy way to still be heard. So have conversations and open that up so that your children know how to communicate when they need their needs met.
Yeah.
Got you.
I just took some notes.
Simone, your turn.
Hold on, I had to take my notes on that. Hold on.
I just came in here dropping off all the same.
I don't know what to say after that shit. Like,
y'all should get together and write a book on black motherhood, man.
Yeah,
that would be dope.
So serious.
Yeah,
that would be dope.
One thing that I would say as far as addressing other black mothers is it is okay to not identify as a black mother first. It's totally okay for you to acknowledge all parts of your.
Can you explain that? Can you explain that? Like, expound upon that right quick? Because I thought that was interesting. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
So the way I always say that is, my children know that my first name is Simone, and that I was Simone before I was Malcolm, Messiah, and Amala's mother. So I'm a whole person. I was a whole person before they came along. And it really is a roundabout way of getting to self-care, and not necessarily the self-care where you go and take a bubble bath and do that kind of thing, because that's important. It's important to take care of yourself, but it's important to honor your identity as an individual and allow your children to see you choose yourself. Allow your children to see you choose yourself, remove yourself from a negative situation, or say no, or set a boundary, or say, hey, I'm not perfect, I need a break. Because I think it opens a way for vulnerability. Like being able to apologize to your children if you make a mistake is, there's nothing wrong with that. Being in touch with who you are as a person, no matter what. Because I think that I'm an awesome Black mother because my name was Simone first. And my name is always going to be Simone. Part of my identity is Malcolm's mom, Messiah's mother, Namala's mother, Kennedy's auntie, Gabby's sister, Diane's daughter, Mary's granddaughter. I'm all of those things. I'm a writer. I do this, I do that. You know, I honor each and every one of those identities in front of them. If I am tired, I am going to say it to them. So it's sort of taking off this cloak of it's respectability as a parent. You know, presenting a certain way as a parent. That's not a pass for being abusive or being dismissive or neglectful or any of that. It's owning your identity as a person first. And you know, Asia made a good point about being able to like being called out. Like I'm like, I want my kids to be critical thinkers, right? I want them to pay attention. I want them to do this and that. Don't get mad when it turns on you and they do it to you. If you're teaching them that, you're the first person they're going to practice on. Usually, they're gonna have that reaction. And although it can be annoying, so I can tell my middle son is the one that speaks up all the time, has a million questions, wants to know why is this way, wants to know why it's that way. He wants an explanation before he goes into anything. It's an inconvenience to me sometimes when we're just trying to get where we're going, right? But I can't vilify him and make him feel bad about that because I taught him that. You know, again, it's okay to just say I made a mistake or say I'm wrong or I don't know what I'm doing with this. I have to piggyback on what Asia said about having a village. You know, be willing to let other people offer an opinion when you have a blind spot. And, you know, really for the kids, everyone has to earn your trust, including your parents, including your mother, including your father. And it goes back to the emotional intelligence. So I guess like all the things that I've been saying, they're all connected. It's just be emotionally intelligent, pay attention to what's going on around you, be willing to speak up. Don't change yourself out of fear or because you think it's going to save you from something. And that starts with the parent. That starts with me. You know what I'm saying? Like that starts with how I present myself to the world, which is really more indicative of how I present myself to me. I got to be able to live with myself. You know, we are in quarantine for the y'all saw my post like I want to go protest, but I can't go. But I'm not allowed to go. But you know, I can be in the house for 6 weeks at a time, 7 weeks at a time because I've actively practiced being okay with me and answering to myself, but not in an asshole way, right? Like not in a vacuum.
I can be in the house for 6, 7 weeks at a time because I shop at Sam's.
Yeah, that too.
We almost out of time, y'all. Hey, this has been absolutely amazing. I hate that we was having some technical difficulties with Salika because I really wanted her perspective. But the next episode is going to be about raising Black daughters. I am privileged enough to have a amazing prince and princess. So I'm just really looking forward to seeing how Black women are raising their daughters. And then we're going to do the Black men after that. But I want to see how Black women are raising their daughters in this era in 2020. You know, because Black women are targets too far too often. And I'm saying this, you know, as a Black man, far too often us as Black men and our community in general forgets about these Black women. I want to see more. Like we've seen a lot of outrage for Breonna Taylor. Her name was on every sign today at the protest I went to. But you know, I wanted to see a little bit more outrage for Breonna Taylor. I wanted to see a little bit more of that. But going forward, like I think that one of the things that, you know, my daughter ain't gonna never temper herself for anybody. So I feel like my daughter will be the one to speak up for anybody that's, going side, that anything that's going sideways, she's gonna do it. But I want her to have that example from our community so that she knows that she matters and that her life is just as important as her little brother. If anything were to happen to either of them, know that, well, first of all, anything happen to either one of them, y'all gonna get my bail money ready. I'm just telling you now. But but I want her to see that example and know that, we will come to her aid the same way we would anybody else's. Yeah. That being said, man, thank you guys so much. You both are amazing. I love you both tremendously. Thank you for sharing your experiences as Black mothers. Thank you everybody for watching and listening, and we will catch y'all next episode talking about raising Black daughters. So, catch y'all later. Peace.
Bye, y'all.
Peace.